Hey guys, what's up? So if I had to describe my relationship with the iPad, more specifically the iPad Pro, I would have to say it's complicated. I will always have a special place in my heart for the iPad Pro. It's what started this channel in 2020. I've enjoyed using it throughout the years, but I can't deny that I've fallen out of love with it just a little bit. And I think the reason for that is that it never really lived up to its potential, at least not in my opinion. And it kind of got stuck in this perpetual identity crisis. And as a result, I find myself using it less and less. It's not really a laptop replacement, so for longer work sessions, I'll still grab my MacBook Pro 100% of the time. And throughout the day, when I'm on the move, I'll grab my iPhone 15 Pro Max for pretty much most things. But there's one recurring scenario whereby I seem to remember why I love my iPad, and that's during my travels. Now, I almost always need to bring my 14-inch MacBook Pro with me as well on my trips because I will need it to edit my videos, but I either stick it in my checked luggage, which admittedly is not always the greatest idea, or in my little carry-on suitcase along with my camera gear with the intention of just leaving it there throughout the flight. And I'll carry my iPad in my personal bag alongside the other stuff I need frequent access to. The MacBook is not exactly a lightweight setup, and it's not something I really enjoy using on the plane or in a hotel bed to watch some content, for instance. In those cases, I actually much prefer using my 11-inch iPad Pro. It's got a beautiful display, it's super light and thin, especially this new M4 iPad Pro, and if I do need to do some light work, the Magic Keyboard has me covered for the most part. So yeah, on my trips, doesn't matter if it's business or pleasure or both, that's where the iPad still really shines for me. Now, I do use the iPad mostly for productivity, and while I can't quite do all of my work on the iPad Pro, I do have a list of really great apps that help me get there, or at least help me get there most of the way, so that I will only have some finishing touches left to do when I do get to my MacBook Pro in my hotel room. So here are some of my favorite apps that help me stay productive during my travels. Let's ramble.
Hold up, place go wild when I pull up. They all on me like it wants them.
So the first one has become an absolute staple and probably comes at no surprise, and that is Notion. I use Notion to plan a lot of things like my trips. It's where I collect all the important documents, etc. But mainly I use it to plan my content. Anything from the content calendar to my scripts to my contracts with sponsors, it's all in one place. And while the high level of customization Notion offers was one of the things that actually put me off from using it at first, I've actually come to appreciate it now that I've managed to dial it into my needs. My key takeaways from that process has been to keep it simple. The more complicated I make my systems, the more likely it is that I'll abandon them over time. But as long as I keep things simple, I can see myself using this app as my main organization tool for a long time to come. Now, this next app is something I never expected I'd be using as much as I am, and that is ChatGPT 4.0, or 4.0 as the kids say. Unlike Siri, which for the time being is still borderline unusable, this is an actual smart assistant. I've always preferred Google Assistant over the likes of Siri and even Alexa, but it pales in comparison to ChatGPT. I've called my assistant Susan, and I've made her remember that. I then took my time to give her all sorts of information about myself, my business, and my family so that she can help me better and quicker. Now, I can almost hear some of you cringe at the idea of giving that kind of information to an AI assistant, but honestly, I'm not that concerned. There's no such thing as privacy these days, and I'm convinced that even the so-called encrypted apps are an illusion. Our information is out there whether we like it or not, so I might as well use it to my advantage. What I like about this latest version of ChatGPT is that you can actually have full-blown conversations with it. You don't need to carefully craft your sentences into search queries like you would with Google. You just talk to it, give it context, and even ask several questions in one go. I find that most of the time, if not all the time, the answers are really complete and useful. Hey Susan, what's up?
Hey Patrick, not much. Just here to help with whatever you need. How's your day going?
Pretty good. So we're leaving for New York tomorrow, and I'm wondering a couple of things. I'm really thinking about what I should be doing the first day we're there, but at the same time, I'm also considering what I should be filming for my Day in the Life in New York video. Can you help me out?
That sounds exciting. For your first day, maybe start with something that really captures the New York vibe. You could grab breakfast at a classic New York diner or bagel shop. Perfect for a casual start to the day and some great B-roll. After that, maybe a walk through Central Park or a visit to a spot like the Top of the Rock for those iconic city views. For your Day in the Life video, you could film the morning routine, some interactions with locals or other content creators, and showcase your favorite spots in the city. If you're planning on checking out tech stores or cafes where you might work during the trip, that could tie in well with your brand too. Does that sound like it fits with what you're thinking?
That's a great start. And can you also give me a suggestion for a thumbnail?
For the thumbnail, a split screen design could work really well. On one side, have an overhead shot of you holding a coffee or bagel with the New York City skyline in the background. Here's a visual idea of what the thumbnail could look like.
Pretty cool. Unfortunately, it does not have access to my apps, so I can't ask Susan to open this or send a message here or put this in my calendar, but that's just a matter of time. The way I see it, that's basically what Apple Intelligence is going to be. You know, when Apple finally decides to release that. For quick handwritten notes, I've come to appreciate Apple Notes. I typically try to stay away from Apple's native apps simply because as a tech reviewer, I'll use PCs and I'll use Android phones as well, and there's nothing more annoying than not being able to access my stuff. So for the most part, I rely on third-party cross-platform apps, Apple Notes being the exception. I really like the new feature Apple implemented whereby it cleans up my handwriting. It's very necessary. And I also appreciate that I can write out equations that it will then solve, which is basically an integration from the new calculator app. Now, to keep track of my daily tasks, I keep coming back to TickTick. I've tried so many to-do list apps, but I find that most of them are trying too hard to be too many things at once. This app is dead simple. It's just a list with some reminders and some small options, and that's it. It syncs between my Mac, my iPhone, and my iPad, and that's really all I need from a to-do list app. Anything that requires additional planning, I'll do in Notion. Now, when there's a specific reminder or something I need to remember with some urgency, I've been trying this app called Cheat Sheet. It basically lets you jot down quick reminders, could be a phone number to call or something to remember, and it lets you turn that into a widget that you can stick on your iPad's home screen. Some of those widgets will be interactive, so you can take action right there from the widget. I haven't been using it that long, so I might have to revisit this in a future video, but so far it's been pretty cool, so I wanted to at least mention it here. Emails are of course a very important part of both my daytime business and my creator business. I get up to hundreds of emails a day, and unfortunately I'm not joking, and while a good portion of those can be deleted pretty much right away, it is also where I communicate with my clients and my sponsors. I've tried a lot of different email apps, and I have to say, I've yet to find the perfect one. For the moment, I went back to Outlook. They have really been improving the iPad and the iPhone app to make it feel closer to the desktop experience, but there are still plenty of bugs, and the search function in particular is really bad in my opinion. So bad that it's just impossible sometimes to search for a specific email, which can be really annoying. I hope they'll fix that soon, but other than that, it's probably the lesser of all evils when it comes to email apps. I don't like Apple Mail much, but I might actually give that another chance once Apple Intelligence comes in. Some of those new features did look pretty sweet. Now, one of the most important things I receive via email are contracts from brands that I need to sign. Some of them will use a specific app for that, like DocuSign, but the majority will still send me just a PDF file. And for those, I absolutely swear by PDF Expert. I've been using this app for some years now, and when I recently recommended it to someone on Twitter, or X, they actually reached out to me to collaborate on this video, which I'm pretty stoked about. Again, I've tried many PDF apps, but what I hate about most of them is that they always seem to mess up the document as soon as I want to make some edits. PDF Expert has been consistently great in keeping the document super clean. It lets me make the adjustments I want to make, where I want to make them. There's no jumping around of text, no sudden font changes like you see all the time, none of that annoying stuff. It just works, and when I'm done, you'd never know you're looking at an edited document. The iPad app is pretty fantastic, but the Mac app is arguably even better. Of course, everything works across platform, and it's absolutely packed with tools, both for editing and for annotating, and of course for signing documents. So when I receive my contracts through Outlook, I just open the document in PDF Expert, make the adjustments I need to make, fill out the requested parts of the form, and then I put my signature on it. I drew mine once and just saved it, so I always have my signature handy to slap on a document when I'm on the go. It's been awarded in the App Store multiple times, and even after all these years, it still manages to keep a 4.7 App Store rating, which is pretty impressive. If you haven't tried this app, I can highly recommend you check it out. And of course, links to everything will be in the description below the video. And of course, I can save my documents within the app, and it syncs to Dropbox, which is great because that's where I keep most of my files. I won't spend a lot of time talking about Dropbox. Everybody knows this app by now. And yes, I use Google Drive as well, but only because some of my clients prefer it. Personally, I much prefer Dropbox. I just like the filing system, it syncs really well, and I recently also gave up my subscription to WeTransfer because Dropbox Transfer is actually really great for sending large files like my video files to brands. So I just use that instead. Now, I do get distracted pretty easily, and I'm in the habit of procrastinating every now and then, so sometimes I need to force myself to do some focused work, and for that I like to use a Pomodoro timer called Focus Keeper. I just enter a task, choose how long I wish to focus on it, and press start. It is basically just a glorified kitchen timer, but sometimes that's all you need. It does have other options like breaks and goals, but I don't really use those. Just the timer does the trick for me. Now, if you really experience some writer's block like I do sometimes, and you really want to challenge yourself, you can try this app called Danger Notes. And when I say challenge, I mean challenge, because if you stop writing for too long, it'll delete everything you just wrote. So you literally can't stop typing for more than a few seconds. You'll see a progress bar, and if that's done, that's the end of your text. This is definitely not an app I use often, but when you really get stuck, this might just force you over that hump. Now, let me quickly go over some of the creative apps I use on the iPad before we finish off with a really cool, innovative little app I really like. I'll use these creative apps mostly for my thumbnails and for some social media stuff, but of course they can be used for many more things. So to edit my photos, I like to use Lightroom. It's a well-established app that's been great for many years and it's still going strong. I have an Adobe Creative Cloud subscription, so this is just one of the apps I like to use. I love editing photos using the Apple Pencil. You can do all of that on a computer with a mouse too, but there's just something about using the pencil to make those little adjustments that just hits different. Now, once I'm done with that, I will not send them to Photoshop. While Photoshop Beta is my app of choice on the MacBook, the iPad app still isn't very good. And so for projects that have some complexity to them, I use Affinity Photo. The cool thing about that is that I can actually import those projects into Photoshop later and keep working on them over there. If a project is not complicated or I just need a quick thumbnail, I actually prefer using Canva. Canva used to be a very simple editing tool for dummies, if you will, but it's come a long way and it actually has quite a few features these days, especially if you pay for the Pro version. Like the AI background remover is actually better than the Photoshop one most of the time. So I actually sometimes end up removing the background in Canva and then importing that stuff into Photoshop. If you're not that big into editing, but you still want to make some good looking thumbnails or other designs, Canva is definitely a pretty solid option. Now for the last app I wanted to briefly mention, Pretty Progress. This is an app I saw on Chris's channel over on Daily Tech, and I thought it was so cool. This is really great if you want to visualize a project countdown timer. I use it to count down the number of days till our annual trip to New York, and it has some really cool templates that you can stick on your home screen. Really cool find by Chris, and definitely worth checking out. Alright guys, I hope this was useful. If it was, please give the video a like, subscribe for more videos like this. Thank you so much for watching and see you in the next one.